Really quick, everybody, this entire video will be timestamped, so if you don't want to watch all and get straight into a different topic, please check the pinned comment or the little red bar right down below you. Again, this entire video will be timestamped, and I'd appreciate you guys watching whatever part you'd like. If you're sticking around, guys, hello, everybody, and welcome back to another video. If you're new here, my name is Kyle. I'm your guy with too many YouTube channels, and right now, I am watching One Fight Night 10, and I decided, hey, you know what? I'm by myself tonight. My whole family is going through the disease that rhymes with schmovid. I can't really use that word on YouTube still, so I gotta be careful, right? So I'm by myself, my girl's in bed, so I was like, why not upload my reactions to One Championship? Because if you guys don't know, if you guys have been following the channel, I know I have a very small channel. One Championship is my favorite MMA organization, and I've been watching every card since the fight night started. Now, I'm still learning all of the fighters, so I'm not as knowledgeable as like a fighter in the UFC, let's say. I'm very knowledgeable on those fighters, but right now, I'm learning all these fighters. I want to get down to making prediction videos. I am absolutely loving this card, so I'm going to give my breakdown and reaction to each fight on the card. Timestamps are there if you would like to use them. This card's been great so far. And I'm going to start off with a bonus bouts reaction because, honestly, the card's been fantastic so far, but there's not too much to say about these fights. Okay, Rayun and Kirat Akhmedov both got unanimous decision wins. They were okay fights, but nothing really stood out to me, so I didn't want to, like, really break down the technical abilities of this fight because it was just like a solid performance by both guys, and both guys won. So obviously both guys won. What am I saying? But let's get into the rest of the card because the rest of the card has been amazing so far. There have been some really nice finishes. Starting off with Jackie Buntan versus Diandra Martin, and again, like, I'm just learning the One Championship fighter, so I have to re-recognize the names here. But going into this fight, I was like kind of all over Martin because she looked way more of a fighter than Jackie Buntan. And man, Jackie completely proved me wrong. Actually, I was like, at the time where I was watching that fight, my girl was up. She's in bed now, but she was like, I was like, I'm going to bet on this Martin girl. She looks a little bit more like a fighter, and then the lines were closed by the time I went to bet on it. And thank God I didn't bet on it because Buntan landed a really solid shot. I don't know if it necessarily knocked Martin out, either that or she quit. I think what happened was her nose got shattered, and then she went down because as she went down, she was still looking, but then she covered up and turned over. So I don't know. Like, I'm not saying like, oh my God, what a loser, she quit or anything. I think her nose got shattered. That's just what I'm speculating from the outside, but it was a really solid performance. You got to keep an eye on Jackie Buntan because she does not look like a fighter, but man, she looked pretty solid. Those thighs were really massive for kicks. Like, she's looking good, man. The next fight I was really excited for, Reinier de Ridder versus Ruotolo. I really like watching the Ruotolo brothers fight, and I'm not gonna lie, not too much went on this fight, and I was like, here's the problem. Reinier was just so much bigger. This fight was supposed to be at middleweight. Reinier did not look like he was a middleweight at all. He looked like twice the size of Ruotolo, but props to Ruotolo because Ruotolo was the aggressor the entire time, and at the end of the fight, I obviously thought he won. Yes, he got taken down at the end. There wasn't really a submission attempt on either side, but it could have been like Riddler if he had a little bit more time. Maybe he could have done something to get a decision win, but because Ruotolo was pursuing the entire time, and again, I don't even think anything that happened was really considered a takedown. Obviously, the aggressor was going to get gifted the win in that sense, but he wants to continue to take on really tough guys. He called somebody out that was in light heavyweight, so I was like, solid. Hey, I'm down to see it, Ruotolo. I'll be cheering you through it. Moving on to the next fight, Alyse versus Fan Rong, the former double champion, got a nice submission win in round 2. Round 1 was a little bit back and forth. There was a lot of damage going on Rong's face. Towards the end of the round, Sang was taking over, but in the second round, got a very nice submission win. Very solid performance. Wants to keep fighting. Obviously, he was talking about he wants to get back to the title, so that'd be really fun to see. The dude is looking like a beast right now. Moving on to the next fight, we have the return of Sage Northcutt, and he was taking on Ahmed Mujtaba. Excuse me, I don't mean to be disrespectful mispronouncing any of these names here. Now, Sage Northcutt, I had absolutely no faith in him. None whatsoever. I thought Sage Northcutt, he shattered 30 bones in his face in his last fight. I thought he was not going to be okay. I understand that bones heal, but coming in with like that on your mind, like I can't imagine the mental preparations he had to do to come here. Plus, he's coming from my favorites camp, which historically doesn't do too well unless they're not fighting titles, right? So I guess that checks in. But I didn't know if Sage Northcutt was going to be able to take a punch. I didn't know how much he was working out on this time off, but apparently he got a lot better. And this fight was quite nostalgic to see because Sage Northcutt's looking like all grown up, man. I'm very happy he won. He got clipped right at the beginning, and I was like, oh my God, is he about to get knocked out? And this is exactly what I thought would happen. But then all of a sudden he locked up a submission. I was like, whoa, take a look at that. Sage Northcutt's back. So that was very nice to see. Very wholesome win from Sage Northcutt. Then what we have is probably the fight of the night. Roberto versus Zebaztian Kadestam. And man, was this a banger. I'm not familiar with the history of both fighters, but I did know that this one had a recipe for disaster, and disaster did come. Soldic looked like he was coming, getting the victory in the round 1. He was really pursuing, landing the better shots, but it was still a little bit of a back and forth fight. But man, Kadestam came out in round 2, and this was like after the first round. He put his hands over the cage and stuff, and I was like, oh my god, this dude's tired. This guy might be hurt, because again, he was getting pieced up quite a bit, but it wasn't like he was getting destroyed or anything. But he came in and looking for the kill in round 2, and that kill that he got, he looked fantastic. Whatever happens for either of these guys next, I cannot wait to watch them fight. My eyes are going to be glued to these two. Next fight of the night, we have Stamp Fairtex versus Alyse Anderson, and actually, so I don't mean to sound disrespectful in this sense, okay? I am one of those people who I'm very, very difficult to get into female MMA. I do not like watching female MMA, and I have a very hard time getting into it because most fights are boring. However, I'm actually quite the fan of Stamp. I really, really like her. She has some really, really solid Muay Thai. She has nice technique, which is hard to find in those divisions, which is one championship seems to be a little bit different. One of the reasons that I really like it, the girls actually have quite a bit of technique. Stamp's great. She's a fantastic entertainer. I'm actually quite the fan of Stamp. I've become really, really good fan of Stamp. So I was cheering on for her to win this fight, and she ended up winning the fight. Round 1, she was looking good, just a solid step ahead, but not too nothing too crazy happened. But in round 2, coming in with a clinch with those knees to the body, and then this vicious, absolutely vicious body kick put Alyse Anderson down and out. She looked great. Stamp Fairtex, I cannot wait for her next fight. I really like watching her. Moving on again to the next fight, we have Mikey Musumeci versus Osamah Almarwai. Man, that was a very, very painful jiu-jitsu match to watch, because, oh my god, Mikey was so good at the leg. He's so good at what he does with leg locks. I've watched him fight a few times. Man, he was twisting and pulling every little chance that he got, and I was like, just watching it. And Osamah, his defense was on par, but unfortunately, I had to agree with the commentators in the sense where Osamah wasn't aggressive at one little bit in that match. He was put on the defense the entire time, and that's a great, that's totally to the credit of Mikey, because he looked great. And then the post-fight interview, he was like, okay, I stop being the leg lock guy. You got to go in and try to get the rear naked choke. He switched something up. He wasn't able to get the leg lock, but now he got a rear naked choke, finished the fight, looked fantastic doing so. Mikey Musumeci continues his reign as champion. I do believe he's undefeated in 1 so far. So looking great so far. And the dude is an absolute animal. I will love watching Osamah, though. That defense was, that leg lock defense was on par. That leg is going to be sore tomorrow. That ankle's going to be sore. My ankle's sore from just watching that. Great, great match. Moving on to the next fight, we have Rodtang taking on Edgar Tabares. And man, in classic Rodtang fashion, I always just bet on Rodtang because it's Rodtang, and that dude seems to be unstoppable, and unstoppable he was. Man, at the very beginning, I was getting a little bit worried because Edgar was actually landing some really, really clean spinning elbows on him. I'm like, man, he's just eating that, but that's the beauty of Rodtang, and that's why I bet on him. I don't even know too much about the one championship fighters, and I'm betting on Rodtang, but I don't know if I will continue to do so because of his potential next fight, which we'll talk about in a second. But man, Rodtang started landing his own lead elbows. He was landing really nice combinations early. He seemed a little bit of a step ahead in the first round, but in the second round, man, he found a real home for that lead elbow and was just really putting it to him, and eventually, one shot put him down. Tabares couldn't get up again, and Rodtang had a really, really nice moment. Won $100,000, which was really nice to see. He seemed very grateful. The whole stadium was cheering for him. The dude is an absolute showman, and he has the technique to back it up. His next fight might be at 135 pounds. He wants to take on the champion. He wants to become a double champion in Muay Thai. He wants to become the flyweight champion and the bantamweight champion. I would be really excited to see that. I wonder how his chin would hold up in future divisions, because like I said, I'm going to keep betting on the dude until I see his chin go one day, because one day that's going to happen, like I've been talking about in the UFC with Drew Dober. His chin is going to go one time. He can't keep taking the damage that Rodtang is taking, because this dude walks forward and just keeps throwing and eating shots like it's nothing. Until I see that chin go, I'm going to keep betting on him. I don't know about next fight, though. If he's fighting up a weight class, I'm interested to see if he will still be able to take the damage that he does. But man, the dude looks unstoppable. Classic Rodtang fight. Always really enjoy watching him. If I'm not mistaken, he's undefeated in 1. Could be wrong about that, but still, man, the dude looks fantastic. And finally, this brings us to the main event. Demetrious Mighty Mouse Johnson versus Adriano Moraes 3. The trilogy now, compared to the other fights, it was a bit of a snoozer, but still, Demetrious Johnson put on a perfect performance. It was very tactical. He was going towards the body. In the first and second round, it was kind of a little bit back and forth. Like Adriano was catching Demetrious, so like some really nice straight punches. But Demetrious was ultimately doing more, as Mighty Mouse does. But those body shots from round 3 to 5 were taking a toll, and it could tell it was getting to him. But man, is Adriano durable, just like Demetrious Johnson said at the post-fight interview. Now, is this going to be the last time that we see Mighty Mouse fight? I kind of don't think so. He really seemed like it, because he was asked at the post-fight interview. He really seemed like that he didn't want to quit. But of course, he was always talking about, hey, it's gonna be a decision that him and his wife are going to make together off of camera. But then they tried to set him up with his next opponent, and it was almost like, this is, of course, like, I don't know, right? I'm just watching this from my couch. I'm kind of getting the feeling that DJ was being a little bit dismissive, as if he didn't want his next step. He didn't want to set up a next fight. So I don't know. When he's like, hey guys, do you want me to keep fighting? And then it seemed like he was really, really into it, and he still wanted to defend his title. Because the dude, honestly, if he was, I thought, like, because we were talking about Mighty Mouse possibly retiring, I thought he would show up like a little bit slower, but he was just as fast as he always is. He looked shredded. He looked just as fast, like I said, as he always is. He put on a flawless performance against a really, really tough guy in Moraes, and it's the trilogy fight. He made it flawless. Like, honestly, he implemented the perfect game plan. He is still there to compete at 36 years of age. The dude's an absolute animal, but there's not too much to say about the fight specifically itself. All he was doing was going to the body. Clinch work was absolutely fantastic, and he won a decision. Easy peasy. It was a really, really nice performance by Demetrious Johnson. Not nearly as exciting as the past 2 fights we've seen with the finishes, but still. Great job by Mighty Mouse. If this is the last fight, and I know there's no chance Mighty Mouse comes across this video, but Mighty Mouse, thank you so much for all of your performances. It's a little bit bittersweet, man, if this ends up being the last Mighty Mouse fight, because I always think about, like, now, as I've grown up and as I participated in Muay Thai throughout all these years, I've come to appreciate his artwork. I really started getting into, like, a super fan of the UFC right around when Mighty Mouse was first starting his reign, and back then, for some reason, I didn't care about, like, the flyweight division. And I was just watching him out. Mighty Mouse, he won. Surprise, you know what I mean? I didn't really give it too much thought, and I didn't realize that I was watching, like, greatness at the time. So I'm like, oh, man, now that I appreciate it, he's finally retiring. You know what I mean? Of course, it's not just now, but, like, in recent years. It's like, I have a little bit of a regret inside. You know what I mean? I didn't realize that I was witnessing greatness throughout all the years. So, Mighty Mouse, thank you for everything. I know you won't watch this video, but still. Thank you. One of the greats finally retiring. People don't talk about that enough. One of the greatest mixed martial artists of all time. But guys, one championship has been absolutely fantastic. Like I said, my favorite organization. I will never miss an event from now on. It is so exciting to watch. I was looking forward to this card. I'm really starting to get to know the fighters. Like I said, I want to build this channel up eventually where I start making prediction videos. I could do that for fun, but then I don't want to start the videos and being like, hey, you know what? Well, I don't really know these fighters all that well. And then that would take away from my credibility when I'm making my UFC breakdown videos, because that I'm quite knowledgeable about, you know what I mean? So I don't know what to do in that sense. But regardless, it's an amazing time. Absolutely amazing. What a great night of fights all around. And it could be the end of Mighty Mouse, which is a little bit bittersweet. You know what I mean? I hope the best for him no matter what he chooses. But guys, let me know what you thought of everything down below. What did you think about the one Fight Night 10? It seems to be getting a little bit more attention, especially coming to the US, which is very nice to see. On the screen right now, you have 2 fantastic Clenbat videos for you to check out. Check them out. They're pretty great. Thanks for watching, guys. Take care.